My one piece of advice for those that are getting ready to transition is just making sure you are building your network, because that veteran community runs so far and deep, and there's always a vet willing to help or even just have a conversation.
Have a backup plan for affiliate reserve, like know the reserve opportunities, because nobody's telling you. Most of these guys don't even know about their requirements when they get out, right? So, but I would say when you're getting out, pay attention to those IMA and reserve opportunities they're talking about, because they're always going to take you. And the quicker you can recognize you need some TLC, you know where you can walk in the door.
Hi, and welcome to Athena Talks, where finally, after a year and a half, we can bring you episode 1. And in episode 1, it's just simply my business partner, James, and I sitting down and sharing on how our Marine Corps journey brought us together to now where we have formed our first business partnership journey in making the Athena platform and what Athena means to us and where we hope to go with Athena Talks. But all episode 1 is really about is just stepping off and starting with the vision to bring you remarkable people that have pushed through the hard and navigated the left and right turns of fascinating career journeys, to bring them to the table and hopefully inspire you and give you something to think about. On that note, thank you so much for joining us as we step off on this Athena Talks journey.
Hey, it's D-Day. Talk about grassroots level, lacing up the bootstraps. So feel like I'm brand new, learning how to tie shoes, I guess. What about you? What do you think?
Well, I think Athena Talks, we've had a year and a half in the making to bring this, and we've actually, we're here. We made it to episode 1. So, right, we got to celebrate the small victories.
What is episode 1?
Episode 1, this should all be about Athena being born and our partnership journey.
Athena is born. I love Athena. You know, you and I are passionate about Athena. What is Athena to the world?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You know, it took us a little while to even come up with the name, right? Because, as we know, being a Marine is part of your identity. And whatever you tie your professional roots to are part of your identity. So Athena, whatever we ended up naming our company, was going to be part of our identity. And I know I kept going back to Athena for a couple reasons, and in large part because of what the name meant. Everybody knows, right? It's like Athena, the goddess of war and wisdom. And yeah, maybe that makes sense superficially, two Marines come together to make a business. Yeah, of course, it's about war. But what it really means is, and this is something that I've always said as, I'm knee deep in my second decade of a professional journey. And I always say, especially to the young kids, your professional journey, life in general is a contact sport, right? That's the war. And it's a contact sport because to make it to the top of whatever hill you're climbing at that moment in life, you just got to get up every day and do it, right? No matter how painful that may be. So that's the war side of it. And I think both of us sitting here with a lot of time and experience under our belts, when you look back and you reflect on, okay, I've made it to the top of the mountain several times. How did I do that? That's where the wisdom piece comes in, right? You learn so much over that journey. And that wisdom just doesn't come from your own individual experience. It comes from the tribe that you build along the way. And I know both of us, we have a tribe of people and a network that we've had from the very beginning, and one we've cultivated, over the years. And so that's kind of where, before talking about what we do, that's Athena and what it means and why we landed on that, right? Getting up, living that war, sharing that wisdom. And through that informs what the heck we're going to do with this company, right? And I think, where we're at is using our experience to inspire, whether that's the next generation or just the people around us, to keep getting up and doing it every day and believing in whatever mission they're trying to bring to life. connecting our various tribes. Athena Talks is going to be a huge part of that, like connecting our tribes of people, to be part of that inspiration. But, you know, we're going to be able to climb a lot more mountains and journeys as just a group of like-minded people. And then the final piece of that is, we're both at a point in life where we can start putting money where our mouth is, right? And investing in things that we believe in. I know we're both very passionate about the American dream. And I think, both the symbolism for what Athena means, like its purpose, all came together to inform what our mission is, right? And our mission is going to be to bring our version of the American dream to life, largely through inspiring action, connecting a tribe of like-minded people, and hopefully, James, managing a profitable and successful investment portfolio. So that's Athena.
I love it.
Right.
I love that's what Athena is. And, there's so many rabbit holes I want to go down and just, that description of what Athena is and our mission. But something that I was immediately tied to because it resonated with me personally in our relationship is what you consider your tribe. And I think what was unique for me is that was probably the first tribe introduction I had was when I got to come and work for you. So what does tribe mean to you, and where does tribes fit into Athena? Is there something correlating there? Because I love our roots and the purpose of Athena and how we became Athena. And I think other stories will get to that. But I kind of want to dive into why is this our company? And what do you think our tribe started as?
Yeah. Well, I think both for us, right? Joining the Marine Corps very early, like you learn the value of a tribe and having teams around you and people around you to work through those hard times and good times, right? There's no journey in life that you do alone. I do want to correct one thing you said, like you didn't work for me. Like, right? Like any unit you're together with in a Marine Corps, like we work together. Like we are a mission focused organization and like a team. And so I think on our journey coming together as Red Wolves, which is right, like one of the best units in the Marine Corps, like one of the greatest experiences.
We were pretty good.
Yeah. I think we just we connected as officers. We had similar visions. I mean, you were obviously very passionate about being a Marine. Marines just connected with you, like instinctively. Just your personality and how you drove operations and drove, whether it's commander's intent, whatever the case may be. It happened and it fell into place. As most Marines do, you come to a unit, you go through really hard things, you win a lot of milestones, and on the back end of that, while people leave and they go to different units and life changes, you get to maintain remarkable professional relationships. And I think that's what just happened with us, right? You've always been a compass for me, right? In terms of helping me stay in kind of a true north in a direction that's going to be rewarding and keeping me going up the right mountain as opposed to like, several different ones. So I think, that's how Athena came to be. I'm sitting there talking to you about where I am in my professional journey because you just kind of became my life coach. And then you're like, Katy, just do the thing. Let's just do the thing. That was a year and a half ago. We had no idea what that thing was.
Right.
And here we are. So I just want to thank you for I think it's important when you have your tribe, those people in your tribe that keep you focused on your true north and inspire, like we talk about, right? Like inspire action. And you certainly inspired me to act, and here we are.
I'm glad you brought that memory up about the year and a half ago because so much has happened so quickly that we forget it was in the works or something was in the works. And what's beautiful about, I think, this podcast being our first active or piece of action as a company or together is that I kind of already forgot about the last year and a half. It feels like we just, we sparked this up, a few months ago, and here we are live. But what I really like is it was the same theme of the way Athena started as the way this podcast is starting. Is I think it was about 3 months ago, you and I were sitting there still swamped, covered up in our professional endeavors, and we're like, okay, we've got Athena here. What are we doing with it? And it was just like, hey, we've got to do something. We've got to take action. We've got a lot of opportunities, a lot of overlapping network, but all of those are taking time. And in the interim, you and I both felt like we needed something of action to move forward with. And I think it was the next week we started mapping out this podcast to roll out Athena Talks, and I'm very proud of the fact that here we are live and making that happen. And I think probably one other thing that would be important to point out about Athena as the journey of it coming out here at the beginning is more so. Let's talk about some of those ventures that you mentioned. What are the important ones that we're devout about? I think it's important to mention Athena is a majority woman-owned business. That was important in our infrastructure. We were looking for opportunities to capitalize in that market space, just knowing the way that the economy, what the economy is supporting right now. But so we're business folks as well. That being said, we are passionate about certain industries, one being veteran-owned businesses, and I think that makes sense. But what people may not realize is yes, we're woman-owned business, so we would be interested in women-owned businesses, but economically and as business folks, we're being smart, and we think and we believe that the great wealth transfer is fully impact and taking place. Women are going to control the majority of the wealth in the future,
As they should.
they should. And I will say, the 25 to 45-year-old population, there is a big gender inequality of performance right now, or capability. So the earnings should be flip-flopping, but as employers, and folks, Marines training, the juniors coming up, I am consistently seeing the females outperform the males in the 20 and 30 year old ranks right now. So that being said, what are we investing in, Katy?
Yeah, well, sure. Like inspiring and supporting other women is going to be a big pillar of what we do. But I think what's more central in the theme is supporting and investing in talent. Like we're both big believers in the American dream. Like, particularly you, right? Like your blue collar coal mining upbringing and the path that you have charted for yourself is like the epitome of the American dream. So it's less male, female, and more like where is that talent hub happening, right? And how can we help inspire that? And the veteran community is amazing. And it's also, the veteran community is important for us because, right, like obviously we're both Marines. We both have just amazing veteran networks, but we've lived through that veteran transition, right? That active duty to civilian transition, and that isn't easy. And if there's ways that we can be facilitators in that and helpers in that, I think, that's what we're going to chart out to do. But I think as of right now, our initial investments, what we're looking at are largely female owned and um, veteran businesses that are up and coming and making a difference. Yeah. So
Well, that's a good point. And some folks would come back and say, well, hey, is there small, medium, large, fresh starters, scratch starters, already developed? We're looking for talent, right? I think that's the key. And one of the things I love that you said when I said I came to work for you. I remember on day one showing up, and you're right, it was a partnership. I put you on a pillar because it was the first opportunity I had to, one, work for a female, and two, work for somebody that was trained to the same training I had. Prior to that, everybody I worked for was a separate, different specialty. I was supporting them. And so with you, we could, I knew it was getting to work for somebody that professionally thought the same way. So I was excited about that. But I also remember looking at it was we had two roles. I wanted you to be able to command the squadron, and I felt like I could run it if you had somebody there to do it. I felt like before I got there, you were commanding and running it, and that was limiting where it was going. So I got lucky that you see favor in me. It was already all there. And I think I even told you that one time, like all these pieces were happening. One of the first things I asked you to do was let me take over a meeting because I felt like that was something I could run that would allow you to go command. And when that happened, there wasn't really much I did. I got a lot of glory for very, very little action. It was just a filler. But then taking that a step forward with here and looking for partnerships and talking about like employment, I never feel comfortable when folks on the Simplify team say they work for me or they're employed by, because I'm nobody that gets a paycheck from here. Did I like put a hiring application, like a search thing out for? Yeah, I met them. They had talent. I saw they had opportunity and personality. And I think you and I have both kind of figured out with technology and knowledge at our fingertips today that if you've got personality and are coachable, there's nothing I do in my day job that I can't like make a revenue producing opportunity out of those characteristics. And we've been growing really well now. But none of them that we bring on are employed. We bring them on to get a paycheck until they're ready to grow whatever's there. Like we're empowering. I've been on this kick, and I think maybe you did that to me unbeknownst. You empowered, employed, and enabled, educated, and here's the newest one: emboldened. And that was,
Yeah.
you kind of emboldened to take that leap. Like you called it out. It is like I said, hey, we need to take action. Next week, I know like we've got a staff like running, buying infrastructure. I mean, we've got an IT guy that started today. So we're emboldened right now, Katy. This is life's good.
Well, yeah, but I mean, right? Like it just all goes back to that theme of just, right? Like having that warrior mindset. Life is a contact sport. You're going to get hit. Just get back up, right? Like it's trust your people in your circle and get back up. I do want to go back to the Red Wolves though for a second, because I think, I do want to know, like that command was filled with so much talent across the board. And I think, all they needed was just a voice and a mechanism to be heard, right? I mean, they were 3 dispersed units trying to do this complicated mission. Of course, true fashion, like under-resourced, understaffed.
In core fashion.
Yeah, I mean, what made that a special unit to command was like just the talent across the board, and then just giving everybody a platform to be heard. And a lot of magical things happened. I mean, it was pretty cool to see what happened. And you're a big part of giving people a voice. And
yeah, you thought they had a voice. I made them all echoed. I funneled it in.
Yeah.
We had a big stick policy for a couple of weeks until we all got on the same page.
Yeah. But right? But that's the nature of it, right? You've got to have successful teams to be able to move any balls forward. You've got to be able to sit in a room with each other and have hard conversations, right? And trust each other and build that trust in relationship. And I think that was, when I was thinking, okay, who am I going to partner with on this Athena journey, right? Like I knew, especially right when it comes to money and where you're investing and putting your hard-earned capital, like it matters who you partner with. Like we have got to, and we always have, we've always been able to sit down and have the hard conversations, right? And we can go head to head and have conflict, but walk out of that conflict more productive, understanding each side and better for it, right? And in the year and a half to get to this point, like that wasn't all rosy. It took a year and a half because we had to have so many of those hard conversations.
Trials and tribulations.
Yeah. But right, like
we failed at, I mean, we actually tried to get on the government piece. And so many felt like we shelved it. We haven't quit anything. We shelved things.
Yeah. Well, it's right. It comes down to being able to have those hard conversations, to weigh the pros and cons, and come out of that being decisive, and then supporting each other with whatever decision that's going to be. And,
how do you think we regulate that with what, what's interesting is most people would say for this to be such a good unity would be that we would complement each other a lot in opposites, where I would say we do complement, but it's not necessarily opposites in so many senses. I mean, I think our skills, our knowledge skills might be completely different, but our strategy thinking is the same. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's just the Marine training, right? Like we kind of just like how we process, how we want to operationalize. Like I think a lot of that just goes back to
how we just decide and act. Our OODA loop. Do you think it's our OODA loop is just similar enough at this point?
Yeah, and I think it's important. I just want to go back to money.
Why is ours the same? But you've worked with a lot of Marines, and female and male. I mean, I'm inspired by almost every single female Marine. You don't have to be inspired by any of them because they're all not all of the female Marines probably are aspiring to be you. That being said, that's still unique. That I mean, there's a unique overlap in our relationship. I think that we still yet to know as clearly. And
I think that's going to come down to, and the reason why we're not getting specific about what actual investments we're making, right? Because we're still in active due diligence, and I think the true test is going to come like when the money starts disappearing or investment goes south, right? Like how do we withstand that? And that'll probably
the good thing is we're doing this at a time in life where there's nothing we can't replace as long as it's not a heartbeat.
Yeah.
We'll go make more money.
Yeah.
That's what our last 20 years was to build for. That's why we can swing at this, and anybody that wants to laugh at us, we can laugh right back at them because we'll swing at something else tomorrow. We got know-how now. That's the beautiful thing. I think the most empowered I've ever been is right now because of this circle of influence that I'm allowing to influence me, quite frankly, or because my circle is so small now. It's so busy that there's very few people that influence anything. And it's the people in that circle. It's quite frankly, it's family or business partners with where I'm at today. And it's just the fact that the business partners were also friends and that's the like-mindedness. So that's, we were going to have like-mindedness as Marine leaders, regardless. Then we were able to be friends and our strategy overlap. I think it's created the synergy that Athena is ready to launch off of. So,
yeah. A topic that I want to go back to, because I think, we have a lot of veterans in our networks. If anybody's going to listen to our first episode other than, our siblings and our kids.
But
I do want to go back to talking about the transition a little bit, because I think having honest conversations about that active duty to civilian transition is really important. Because overnight you lose your tribe, right? So do you have any kind of thoughts or tips for those that are getting ready to go through it or living through it right now and maybe aren't in a place where they want to be, and to inspire them to be like, hey, like you can do it, you have the skills to do it. But I think just, did you have struggles in your journey, or is it always been?
I'm intrigued that you asked that because I feel like you've heard this story, but I know you haven't. So I'm confused why you asked that. But yeah, that was my first I had no signs of mental health or knowledge of it, and quite frankly, didn't probably respect it at all up until I separated from the Marine Corps. And it was quite frankly the day after I was separated, the first day I was officially out of the Marine Corps was my first kind of anxiety, or I guess maybe it was who knows, but I felt different and different chemically imbalanced. And what it was, I had actually been on leave for like a month before that. But I knew I was still affiliated, right? I had no interest at the time in joining the reserves. So, I was ready to depart 100%, burn up my leave and drop my pack, right? Day one of not being affiliated, I was very lonely and lost. And I didn't realize it was the tribe piece, and probably until joining with you and you using that exact phrase or term to describe us. Because what I ended up doing, I was lost. I went in, could not find any happiness, had a great job opportunity lined up, and was just not going to be fulfilled. And I actually left that job because of the way it aligned to jump back into reserves. And from joining the reserves on, I recognized a mental health opportunity that just being affiliated was for me. And so now, especially now, we'll get into this later. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of what's, being removed from units too much now, or like when I went to school for the 2 years, that I wasn't drilling with Marines. I have seen a difference psychologically for me when I'm drilling on a regular basis. That's kind of like my medication.
Yeah.
To go off, and then that I've had more troubles, and not really I've recognized more mental health issues, or opportunities since the tribe piece left my everyday life, 100%. And so, I mean, I guess that's not guidance or recommendation, but what I can tell folks is have either, if you're not directly affiliating, that's fine, because a lot of us are thinking about all the bad things when you're walking out the door. But what happens is the day the door closes, those bad things you forget all about. It's all the happy reunion memories, you know, and that can struggle. The difference for me was crazy, to the point where I wasn't even in the fleet active duty, like serving, running, and gunning when I got out. I was living a civilian life on recruiting duty, but I was going into an operations center every day where there were 4 to 5 Marines in my immediate surrounding that had thought like me, had been engagements like me, were, constantly on a who's bringing more brass to the table mindset. And that was just a lifestyle that goes away, whether you're living in on base or you're living in a neighborhood. I happen to be living in a neighborhood, so I thought the transition was going to be super smooth. Mentally, that wasn't. And then being in the reserves has definitely been a piece of my medication. Now, I guess 10 years. Shit. Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Dang.
So if you had one piece of advice for somebody that's getting ready to transfer now, like, what would that be?
Have a backup plan for affiliate reserve, like know the reserve opportunities, because nobody's telling you. Most of these guys don't even know about their requirements when they get out, right? So there's 4 years that you're going to stay in contact with, and that's what my job is now, is keeping. But I would say when you're getting out, pay attention to those IMA and reserve opportunities they're talking about, because they're always going to take you if you've don't have bad paperwork. And the quicker you can recognize you need some TLC, or you just need the club, where you can walk in the door. And that's what I ended up doing, was walking in the door. And actually, I ended up being able to affiliate for and I had a job. I had the job for 2 months, and you just don't know about things like that. You don't know about the reserves on active duty because you don't care. But
Yeah. I had no idea about the reserves, but you would recommend joining the reserves.
I would recommend knowing the options around.
Yeah.
Because it's the medication you won't know that if you go straight into the reserves, I think it's going to piss you off, because you're not going to like it, and they're all going to be sloppy, right? I mean, I remember just chewing ass the first 3 months that I was with the reserve unit until I just realized like there's a different mentality. And the Marines 2 days a month, you're not putting food on their table. You're a politic. You got to incentivize, motivate.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I think my initial reserve experience was a little different, but my one piece of advice for those that are getting ready to transition is just making sure you're building your network, because that veteran community runs so far and deep, and there's always a vet willing to help, or even just have a conversation. I feel, being on active duty, you're just so isolated from what the civilian world is doing, what options are really there, and you don't really get to figure that out until you actually start building your network of those that have started to do it. I am not a huge social media person, but I'm a big believer in the LinkedIn community. I think, I've met so many incredible veterans just navigating my LinkedIn journey.
Yeah, I'm going to copy you. I'm biting off on the LinkedIn. I'm working on it.
Yeah, but on active duty, I did not get to understand what our reserve capability was. And I would say I was just shocked coming into a reserve unit like the Red Wolves and understanding the talent that was in our reserve community. I mean, we had and I always share this story, our headquarters and support company clerks were a practicing lawyer and an engineer that was building bridges in Minnesota, or somewhere in the Midwest. And then just so much of our reserve talent is balancing so many things. They're balancing a reserve career. They're balancing family. They're balancing Marine Corps standards.
Community involvement.
Yeah, it was just remarkable.
I love it that you say that, because the timing couldn't be better. I came back from reserve duty this weekend, motivated, well rested. Like I slept in a couple, because in our day-to-day life, we're running and gunning. So we go to Marine duty, people think it's kicking our nuts, but the fact that we finally get to focus on one thing, life's good. So I was well rested. So I show up at Monday and have this community event. I am so on it, and I need so many things done, and we've got so much going on. I had an agenda. It was 8 to 9. That's the time I had. Boom, 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 knocked it out. I left. The city officials called me into town hall later that day, wanting to know if everything was okay, and trying to assess why did I have so many things going on? What's going on? Because there's a few projects I'm involved with that it matters to a few people. So I understand their interest. What blew my mind was the answer was simple. I was just trying to measure up. I came from a drill weekend where every person in the unit is a major or lieutenant colonel or staff NCO or above, right? They're running their law firms, businesses, public companies. I come back here and I look at what I've got going on and I say, it's not enough. I'm up against the time clock. I don't want to show up.
Oh, don't bring imposter syndrome into it.
Well, so it's crazy that to other people, our loose screws are that weird. And to us, we're trying to fit in, but it's our community is that different. And I finally appreciate that because of this.
Yeah. That reserve tribe is incredible. I want to flip the script a little bit though on the transition and give you a perspective you probably haven't thought about. And maybe this was my own experience, but I would think that there are other service members out there that also happen to be female that find the transition to be different, because when we're on active duty, and you made a comment about, Marines that are women that, would aspire to be me. And I would say absolutely not. What that talent pool aspires to be is the best version of themselves, and getting up every day and tuning out all that noise of all the people that want to say women shouldn't be in a certain place. They can't do it. They can't be Marines. And then just getting laser focused on what they're able to bring to the table. And I will say with that transition, as I've amassed a network, it's been very interesting to watch the veterans that are women get out there and they just destroy the private sector because right they've been challenged in different ways, growing up in the service and having to prove themselves and like living up to the best standard that they can bring to the table, the best quality that they can bring to the table, overachieving in every single way. And they hit corporate America and they're like, oh, like I have a voice out the gate, like there isn't all this noise. I'm really good at what they do. Like I do, I'm really capable. And they just skyrocket. I mean, it's just amazing. I'm not saying that men don't do that either, but it's been very interesting to watch kind of that dynamic. And I have far more calls and meetings with my service members that happen to be men that are really struggling because they lost that tribe overnight. Where the women are like, yeah, I mean, I lost that tribe, but I know how to make another one, and I have a platform where I'm just going.
They're up to the races.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
To that, I'll say a stat that I would be comfortable standing behind would be that I would say enlisted or officer specific. Okay, I'll leave it to officer. I don't know a female officer that's not successful, career, professional, or on the civilian side. Yeah, I would say that there's 100% success rate of female officers that I know that have transitioned professionally, and I don't, whether it's money or whether it's lifestyle, they're successful in what they're wanting to do, period, because they identify it and they go after it and they can achieve it, and they probably why they were Marines to begin with. As far as males, I will tell you, I would have started at 50%, but I'd be comfortable saying that no more than 50% of the male that transition that actually measure up to their potential. Not even, they just accept complacency a lot more, and I don't see any of the females doing that. So I just, as from an investment standpoint, when I'm looking at risk and return, it's a little bit easier to invest in professional females that have, veteran service behind them right now, I would say. So little tip for our future partnership.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So, and we'll end with this. 12 years from now, 12 years, Jesus, 12 months from now, what do you hope Athena looks?
I would hope that Athena looks like a platform for people with a vision, and that we are recognized as enablers, and people can take that for whatever it is. If that's a small town being enabled to supply a water tower to the community, by God, we can do that. If that's a corporate CFO that's wanting to take her company public, by God, we're going to help her do that too. So I just found out this morning that we've got an opportunity to do a lot of healthcare stuff in Puerto Rico. So, I'm assuming we'll be filming this podcast from abroad in 12 months, just because of opportunities like what we want to bring to the table for everybody else.
All right. Well, I'm just along for the ride.
Oh, crap. You're leading away. You got to tell, I want to hear you. This is my opportunity to learn about what's interesting here is I get to learn about you. And I think that's how we need to wrap up. And I'll spend at least a couple minutes. Is the reason you picked me, you've said, but I was always going to say yes to anything that you present as an opportunity, or as it could have been a task. It was, to me, it's I was able to respect you at a level and then grow a friendship with you that I don't have a reason to say no. I look at it, and you including me, as an opportunity that changes my life every time, whether it was employing me in the Marine Corps or giving me an opportunity in the Marine Corps, or if it's a partnership in business. So when I hear that I'm with you, I I see opportunity, but I don't know all the inner workings of you. Why, so what makes Katy Spicer Colonel Select in the Marine? Did you pin?
No, I won't promote until like September or October.
Okay. Colonel Select Katy Spicer.
Or just Katy. Yeah, that's good.
Katy. Now, is Spicer your maiden name?
Yes.
Okay. Did you?
Born and raised.
Yeah, you called me Bootstraps. Like, didn't y'all work for Ford?
Well, my grandfather did, and that's how we ended up in Detroit. So he virtually died on the River Rouge factory floor.
Your grandfather died on the Ford?
Well, he went up there, worked every day to the point of.
I can't remember. I'm a dude. I think literal. Like, that's what's got me in trouble my whole life, is hearing and thinking words mean everything they say.
He gave his heart and soul to a gentleman named Henry Ford in the River Rouge plant, him and his brothers. And that's how the Spicer family got their beginnings in Detroit. And why Detroit is always going to hold a special place to me. Even though the Lions didn't make it to the Super Bowl, they'll be back next year. So was your first time you moved out of there when you went to college? Yes. Yeah.
And you never went back?
Never. Well, I went back to Michigan State for law school. But yeah. No, I mean, I went to college.
Where'd you go to undergrad?
Florida State. Wow. Representing.
What took you there?
Hope and a dream. Warm weather. Yeah. And
those bull crap.
Yeah, I mean, I played soccer growing up. I played in a club team. I was always told I was too little to make it to Division I, and I went down and visited Florida State February of my senior year, and I went over and watched the women's soccer team play. And I was like, what? I can play there. I'm going to try that. So it was actually going to go to Michigan State. Went down to Florida State and walked onto the soccer team. So that was my everyone needs a life Rudy moment, right? So I think making it through OCS and walking onto Florida State's team are like my two Rudy moments. Everybody needs one. But yeah.
So OCS wasn't any harder for you than walking on Division I soccer?
So I'm super excited. In episode 2, we're going to talk to Sarah, who I met at OCS. And OCS was probably one of the greatest times of my life. I had so much fun at OCS. And I think in large part, right, because you grew up a competitive athlete, right? You grow up a competitive athlete, you always have that kind of tribe around you. And then I got to OCS and I'm around this platoon of just unreal women. Like, this is amazing, right? Like, where the attrition rate was like 74%. We'll talk about that next episode. But yeah, so I had that was a very material life kind of trajectory moment for me, for sure.
You know, we have to stop there because that is going to leave everybody on such pin needles or eggshell, whatever, for the simple fact that you are ecstatic about OCS, and that goes to show just the weirdness that is going on in our community that we do recognize and appreciate. You've got to screw loose, and now the whole world is going to know. So
yeah, we'll
find out more.
Yeah. So, we'll connect again. Athena Talks is real. And episode 2 is going to be with Sarah, who is a remarkable human, and she's built a company into a multi-million-dollar empire just based on her sheer grit and talents alone. So it'll be fun.
This is already getting wild. The way you just told me about your attitude with OCS, we've got a lot of rabbit holes.
All right. I will see you soon, James.
Take care, man.